But I don't know if some of you have questions about this course still. One thing that I just to start the conversation is if, I don't know if there's Simmons people here, but how can we integrate something like this at Simmons? I think one thing that I often find is that Simmons students, learn a great deal, but as far as technology, there's maybe not so much of what we're doing in this class and what's going on in Simmons. And so that's just to start the question off. I know we have Simmons people here, but if you have one. All right, yeah.
Only one?
No, we're all.
So what do you think? What do you think about this, and like, would you want to do it at Simmons?
Yes,
And
I would love to do it. I don't care where. But on what you were saying about Saturdays, I work full time, keep it on Saturdays. It would be great if you're, asking me.
so keep it on Saturdays.
Yes.
Really?
Yes, it sounds so good. I really would think.
I don't. If Jeremy, if you have there's a.
What about doing this at Simmons?
Yeah.
I'm not really sure, not being in the curriculum development area, but I think that it would be a really great something to get into, this kind of data processing. I've found it very helpful, and it seems like something that if, I don't know, just preparing to enter into the field for a hopefully long career, like, I'm going to see this stuff again. I'm going to keep seeing this stuff, and I feel like I'm going to see it more and more, and using this skill set is something that I both will be able to keep using it, and I kind of want to, because it's fun problem solving.
Yes.
Sort of thing at Simmons, they have the continuing ed program. Sort of thing outside our program.
Yeah. Ron can answer
Right.
answer that question.
Well, there are different venues we can pursue. At Simmons, I don't know if you're aware that computer science is coming to Graduate School of Library Information Science. And at computer science, they actually teach introduction of programming. They teach Python. And it will be a regular class at GISLIS too. So if you want to learn Python, it's something you can also get from Simmons. We also have computer science professor Margaret Manson, who's organized big data sort of interest group, and she talked about, she's a statistician, she's also a computer science professor. She talked about R, and then the new dean, who's incoming dean, Aileen Abels, she's interested in developing things related to big data. We also have a class. It's more conceptual, which is a good combination with this class. The other class is called Scientific Data Management. It's more looking at policy and data management cycle and things like that. So we are, I was just talking to Chris, we were talking about possibly pursue either a certificate program or some sort of concentration where we can combine different classes and maybe introduce this class to GISLIS, so that we can, get that kind of interest.
I just realized I should probably be passing this around. I don't know if because there are people watching this online. So.
I thought that it was really interesting when I glanced at the website earlier, and during your introduction, that you didn't start off saying, these are the tools that we learned. You started off saying these are the tasks that we wanted to accomplish, because I'm a student, I'm a baby librarian. I don't really know what all these tools are for, and so you can tell that I'm really excited, because this is pitched to people like me who are not yet experts, and who need to know what they can do with these tools before they figure out which tools to start learning.
I didn't realize you're actually sitting right next to one of our speakers. You were in the back, but he came in and he actually helped us with opening the phone. I don't, you are, I think, one of the people that I can see maybe, during to use these tools for, like with wrangling the data, presenting data to.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a great course. And I mean, I think starting from the questions that you want to answer and going from there is absolutely the right way to do things. And I caught the end of your remarks. I didn't hear everything you said, but when you were talking about starting with kind of higher level or more basic tools first before diving into programming languages, because I think there's places you can use regular expressions and learn them. There's things that you can learn about manipulating data using a variety of tools, whether it be OpenRefine or Tableau or just Excel, and kind of getting familiar with what data is available and so on. And you can use a tool like Refine to learn about APIs. I forget who made the comment about XML to JSON dictionaries, but that would be about 2 minutes work in OpenRefine instead of struggling with parsing in Python. But I mean, I think it's an awesome class. The only other comment I would make about as far as scheduling goes is weekends versus weeknights versus during the day will influence when you can get instructors, particularly if you're looking for pro bono instructors.
We have plans for you. We want to bring you back. So, yeah, we want to. Yeah, in fact, when you actually came and spoke about it at the Refine, I remember people said, "Why didn't we start with that?" Because it was very beneficial. I think just the simple scripting that you do in was it GREL and.
Yeah, and you can even use it for simple web scraping and driving APIs, RESTful APIs and stuff like that. So you can learn a lot of the stuff about constructing URLs and parsing web pages if you really want to go down that path, independent of having to learn a programming language, and then kind of compose it together.
Actually, I can kind of speak to that as one of the students in our project with the Internet Archive and the ADS data. We basically got into Refine and we kind of never left. When I'm hearing Christine talking about some of seeing the Python errors and trying to kind of chew through those things, I think one of the benefits that we found with Refine was kind of being able to see some of the API calls in a dynamic interface where we're able to see, okay, this is making it's making a match, we're pulling back some data, or we're getting an HTML error. And then just kind of being able to try a few characters, and it was really a good tool to kind of throw the spaghetti on the wall and see what stuck. And it was nice that the class allowed us to be flexible enough to just kind of approach it and see what worked. Others have thoughts?
It's true. I mean, I think OpenRefine kind of opened me up to on a data set that I had been sitting on for the last year and a half, not knowing how to deal with it. And, and so so being able to use OpenRefine was really, looking at that Excel sheet and trying to think about how I'm going to take out all those HTML tags and thinking about how daunting it was to just think wow, I've got to go through each and every one. And then all of a sudden, having Tom Morris come to the class and it was just wow, okay. And then asking him questions that he had already answered during his lecture because I was too busy doing the work on that data set. And so yeah, thank you, Tom, for keeping hope alive.
I think another benefit of this class was just the exposure to all of the technologies that we had here and all the programs and the amount of them that were open source. I mean, one of the things that we're doing, I'm at Brandeis, and we're looking at developing research data services. And so one of the things we'd like to do over the summer, which was kind of came out of the eScience Institute I think the University of Michigan initially proposed it. I know Harvard has been exploring the sort of summer of data. And so one of the things we wanted to do is to have conversations and to also sort of have workshops and to train all of our staff with sort of that basic level sort of skills so they can have, if somebody approaches them, to have those conversations, to assess needs. And then as it gets up, we can refer them to Specialists on Campus or things like that. And so for tools like Open Refine, I can see that improving the workflow for a lot of our folks working in like cataloging or in other areas of library and technology services. And so it's just really great to have a lot to work with. I definitely feel like this class was a crash course in many ways, but it gave me a lot of fodder to work with and a lot of things I can return to in the upcoming years.
So the question to
Yeah, I think you have to speak.
Okay. So the question to the panel is, do you then think that it's helpful to actually have two courses in this, like Data Science 1 and Data Science 2? Because I know that in library science curriculum, some schools have database management in Database Management 1 and Database Management 2, and people actually really enjoy this kind of different levels. It seems to me that you have a lot of content.
I don't know how to answer this because I.
Can I try?
Yeah, I don't know what we. I honestly, I think that we tried to do a lot, and I think it was good. I really do think it was good that we did. But at some points, I know that they were like, God, I wish this was just over time. We had more time to do this, and Rahul. We were talking the other day. Rahul Dave, who came and taught Python. He was saying, I wish I had more time too. And that's what I kept hearing also, is that if we had more time. And I know that they also come to me and say, we don't want this to die, we want this to continue. But I'll leave Marina to respond too.
I mean, I was just going to try to be funny with it and said, just because you need the first semester to kind of get the sweat out of us. And so, because, the rooms were hot at different points because we were just sitting there and just focusing and trying to get over ourselves. Or at least I'll say I was trying to get over myself and dive in. So I think it never hurts to spend more time doing anything to get it right.
I think one of the actually benefits of this kind of breakneck go through not everything, but a whole bunch of tools that are useful in this kind of data science environment is you can kind of pick and choose which ones you want to stick with. I enjoyed working with Python, and I've been working with it. It's kind of a little bit slower going, but I feel like once you pick up with it, it gets really interesting. My data set working with HathiTrust was about 10 million records that I had in a CSV file, so there wasn't much that could handle that, and I eventually kind of figured out how to make Python just take it row by row and do things like substitute abbreviations for the full values in a couple minutes for 10 million records from a dictionary. So that was pretty fun. It was really cool, and I think 2 weeks ago I had a moment where I wanted to do something with a spreadsheet, and I manipulated a Python script, and I wrote something to actually do that instead of popping it into some other program to do it for me. And I was like, yes, I am level 1 programmer now. This is excellent. So I think it's good to have exposure to a bunch of different tools so you can kind of choose the one that you feel most comfortable with or you feel you want to work with the most, and then about the rest of them and what their strengths and weaknesses are if you run into a different kind of problem that might benefit from that tool more.
I don't know if the question was whether this should be a 2-semester class, but I think that there's enough here to fill up 2 semesters at least. And, I think if there's an opportunity to stretch it out, then, people could get their feet wet, especially with some of these tools like Open Refine, which I kind of think of as a gateway tool to these kinds of, but something that's very accessible that a lot of people can learn. if you want people to be able to talk to researchers and have an understanding, understand what the catalogers are doing if they're doing this, then it could be good to have a sequence so that students who are really who go through it and are really excited to kind of go further can do some more in-depth programming and work on some really cool projects in the second semester.
Loud. I don't need that.
No, no. For the people online, I guess, right?
I guess that's true. I can't shout over the nets.
Yeah.
I think perhaps another idea about dividing this up might be dividing it up between the technologies that allow you to manage data, like Google Refine, GitHub, and some other ones, versus the actual hardcore programming, like Python and R, because I often use the former, GitHub and Google Refine, to manage projects, but I don't so much use the coding, which was actually what I got out of the class was Python, because I've realized that it's got that really great NLTK package that allows me to do some interesting stuff with text mining. But I think that there's definitely a divide between the technologies we learned. So maybe the divide is what they do rather than just the fact that they're, technologies you can use.
For me, I just keep scratching my head and thinking, like, can this be done again? Because we were just lucky to get just wonderful speakers to come in and do like certain parts, and like I don't know if that's possible. I don't know if other institutions you have like people around, or like I mean I reached out to the meetup groups and got some people there like interested. I don't know why they were interested, but then they came to our rescue, and I think that's one of the great things too, is that when I started out programming, I think people were a little bit nastier on the forums, and I was very afraid, and I wanted to take my time before I answered a question. I see now people are really more friendly. There's a different environment where people want you to learn programming. They want you to learn all this stuff. The communities want this to grow. So like it's I guess it's definitely easier to reach out and ask for people to come in and do these different things. I think I mentioned software carpentry. I think that's one place to start. Really, like they I think they're a great group that come in and teach, usually scientists, this stuff. But I think when I asked them, they said, "Yeah, sure, we can train librarians. We want you to join the cause as well." But I don't know. Like as far as two classes, I don't know if Simmons can do something like that. Like if they can incorporate something like this, because I think another thing was great was it was informal, right? You didn't have so much pressure, and that you had we had a good cohort. I think people that were helping each other, because actually, I mean, I don't think I did a good job of helping them. Sometimes I think they helped each other, and so that was great. It was the environment to I guess part of the projects was to work with people in your group to help each other. But I think you hear some people picked up different technologies, and that's one thing I keep hearing is about this modularity. Like I want to learn maybe this part of it now, because I think it'll help me in my team at work. But I definitely want people to learn the whole thing, to understand the process, and I think that's important. I think one thing we mentioned is that Harvard might do this, and we've had a conversation today about it and how we might structure it, and it may just focus on one language like R instead, and start with Open Refine like we talked about before, some of the basics, and then another thing that we had a speaker come in. His name is David Dietrich. He teaches data science at EMC, and he has a 1-week course. and he actually, when I first, just like much like what I did today, to try and give a background, David Dietrich did a better job of it, the context of what data science is, and he teaches this course, and I think that would be great to have him come in and provide the context again, because he really puts it into the paints the bigger picture, and I think everyone after David left said, I understand this a bit more now. But so those are some of the things that we're considering for for the next iteration of this. But I just think sometimes at a larger level at an institution, it's hard to do this. I just did it. And I had some great people helping me, and I sometimes struggle to see like how that can happen at an institution, because the committees will take it on, and that informalness will just be lost. It'll be this formal structure will take over, and you may lose some of the goodness that was part of this course. So, yeah. Sorry, I'll stop. Does anyone have a question? Yeah.
I'd be curious to hear any of the participants talk about what the value of having people from different institutions and students as well as practicing librarians working together at similar levels, learning together and doing projects together. What was the most tangible benefit of that diversity?
So I can speak to this because I have kind of lived across the U.S. in a variety from like small rural communities to large metropolitan areas. And I feel that particularly if you are working in academic libraries and also sort of expanding beyond that, Boston and Cambridge is a very unique area in the amount of institutions we have here and the amount of opportunities we have to, for instance, have a free class like this. I mean, that hasn't been sort of in existence in any of the other places. And so networking, knowing people, and knowing the strengths, I feel like there's a lot of opportunities. I work at a small institution. We have limited staff capacity. To know folks at Harvard, to know folks at UMass Lowell, and to other areas. I mean, we can really form some solid partnerships and really sort of expand services that way. Do some cool projects.
I work at a pretty big institution. We work for Harvard, and I'm over in the technical services department, and it's very specialized. I don't come from a library background, so this was a chance to kind of meet people in the profession and see what's being done, to meet students and to find out what's being taught at Simmons. It just gives a little bit more context for the profession as a whole. It was cool to meet other people, even at my own institution, that just happened to work for other libraries, and to find out what they're facing and find similarities and, kind of start digging into that. Oh, I can help you with that. And it helped for networking. It was very good.
Those lemon blueberry muffins. I don't think that could have happened without the group. Are you gonna post that? The recipe?
That's very tangible.
That is extremely tangible. I think that, yeah, definitely the networking. Like, I see Ingrid from Library Innovation, Library Lab. And we met at the Open Visualization Conference that I saw Rahul at. And that was pretty cool to because of this class, and then getting access to that conference, and then seeing this dude, Doug, do that visualization. But thinking about accessibility and visualization, so imagining using sounds to try to trace the high and low points of a graph. I don't know, that was kind of cool for me, that I don't know whether or not that would have happened without specific folks here. So, and yeah.
I mean, well, I feel like I can. I mean, unless you, do you want to? We're both students, sure, so.
We probably have pretty much similar things to say. I mean, as students, I think it's obvious that this was a a really amazing experience for us to work side by side on a peer level with experienced professionals in the field. And in my project, I worked with Colin and 2 others on the Internet Archive project, trying to match records from the astrophysics data system with records from the Internet Archive. And originally, we were going to try to match serials, and we ended up matching on monographs. And it was actually really useful to have someone in our group, actually I think 2 people in our group, who had experience with serials cataloging, and just to kind of get, you know, some more of that experience in the whole group process. When we're working on groups in our classes at Simmons, people bring a lot of different experiences and even have jobs sometimes in libraries. But it's nice too to be able to learn from people who have been out there for a long time and have had a lot of experiences that they can bring to the projects, and you know, to learn from them.
Also, I work at a library, but I also work part-time for a small publishing collective. And I think like the tools that with the class and with folks here, like when I wouldn't have been able to, I mean, my colleague is sitting in the audience right now, so she's like dead staring at me. So I work for the South End Press part-time, and you know, and being able to be in a classroom talking about data science and thinking about the implications and thinking more of like sociologically or the like societal impacts of it was important, because I don't think we rarely get that opportunity, and I felt like I learned a lot during that time.
I'm glad you. You just have to. Oh, it doesn't speak louder. So Myrna brought up a great point about the project that she worked on, and I noticed that there was a variety of projects in which some had tasks, so more bibliometric tasks. And your project that I read online today was more about sort of coding for the greater good, and I wondered if someone were to do this course, if you had a greater motivation because of the project that you had or the tasks assigned to you was helping out the collective press that needed this to be done. So it was a real-life application for a project, and so that your team wasn't necessarily just doing a project to experiment to see if they could, but there was an actual sort of a purpose, a greater purpose. And I thought if this course could be replicated, if you think there could be more sort of community-based projects, that somehow that might increase the student motivation because they know that they're helping out, for example, this nonprofit press. I don't know, for people who've worked on other projects, do you think you would have more motivation if you know the work you were doing was somehow helping out a group or organization that needed that help?
So I was in the geocoordinates group, and my group hasn't really shared too much information. So what we were doing with that was trying to like pull the geocoordinates from the ADS, and the end goal was hopefully to create a visualization, like mapping it to Google Earth or some other sort of tool of that. And one of the things why I initially chose that project in the back of my mind was I was a former volunteer with a local social justice organization that provides services to survivors of partner abuse and LGBTQ relationships. And one of the things I had talked to them when coming into this class was like, hopefully I can learn some programming. Are there ways, since I can't be like a full-time volunteer, that I can help to sort of support, you know, your organization? Are there visualizations I can work with? Like, what are things I can sort of focus on? And I know for them, one of the things that they were looking for was there isn't enough like visualizations or just info out there to say like these are appropriate safe places for people of certain identities. Like these are the experiences of people who have stayed in these safe homes, in these shelters. These are like places that we could recommend to folks, you know, sort of across the US, that these are, you know, organizations that you should go to. And so that for me was one of the things that I really wanted to like sort of learn. How can I do this programming? How can I link it like to geocoordinates? And how can I create these visualizations so then we can have these tools to support folks? One of the things I unfortunately realized was even though I have sort of a natural at markup languages, programming is so far away from that. And so it's definitely for me, like I've got some of those like that baseline skill sets, but it'll be a while before I can start to create those larger things.
One thing
wanted to, I put him on the spot, but I wanted to see if Alberto Akamatsi, what he had to say about, he's the program manager for the ADS, and I just, well, I just wanted to hear your thoughts about how your API is being used in the ADS, and where you think this might help.
Yeah, I was going to make a comment in the end. First of all, I'm thrilled to see all the good work that you've done, I should say. And when Chris came to me and said, I got this idea, we're going to have a class and we want to use the ADS, I was like, oh, geez, it's like more people are, these people are going to complain about this doesn't work or this. And, well, as it turns out, it turned out quite well. In fact, probably what Chris didn't tell you was that you guys were guinea pigs because the API that you used was launched like 2 weeks earlier, before the beginning of the class. And some of the sort of features that were referred to in terms of searching things with a dash in between are really things that we need to fix. I mean, they're kind of parsing problems that we should do better at. But no, in general, my sentiment has always been that the more people use our system, the better it's going to be. My fear was that this would trigger a variety of requests, some of which we weren't ready to take on at this point. But I'm really grateful to see that you got a great experience out of it. I would ask that, I don't know, it doesn't need to be a formal thing, but we would like to get feedback from your experience. So things that didn't work as expected, or some of these problems with retrieving documents where you expected the results to be different, false matches, etc. All of that will be useful to us, and we may not get to it tomorrow, but the plan is to improve our system as it goes forward. It's also refreshing to see some of the uses of our data, stuff that you don't think is going to be useful, or projects you've never imagined that kind of come to life because somebody had an idea that seems far-fetched, but in fact then shows promise or correlations you didn't expect. So I'm really happy to see that this worked out this way, and thanks especially to Chris, because I mean he's the guy who pulled it all together, despite our efforts at trying to persuade him that it was a nutty idea. But so thank you. That's my basic.
I didn't know
comment.
about the ADS birthday, the API. Well, I just know the story that Christine was getting ready to do some work on the API, and then we had the birthday, and then no one was around to listen. But that was the only time that I don't think there was a problem, besides Jeremy actually overloading the API too. So.
I didn't overload it. I just found out where the limit was.
Yeah. But it would be great if Harvard Library or other libraries had that ability to open up. They do have an API. The Harvard Library has an API, and we should be using it also in these ways, linking to different data sources. But anyways, any more?
Thanks. I just wanted to make a couple comments about running the course again. So in terms of getting instructors, I think if you've got a syllabus put together and you've got course materials and stuff like that, it becomes much easier, and you don't need the experts that can kind of wing it off the cuff. I know refined courses are being taught for journalists and other people just by people that kind of picked it up themselves. For other stuff, I mean, not a formal thing, but for people that are based in the Boston area, and I presume that's most of the people here, the meetup ecosystem is really useful. And there's a couple of specific things here. The Boston Python meetup is enormous, very approachable, very well run. They do 2 meetups a month, one kind of a lecture style and one a project night. So you could bring along your bibliometrics project, and people would be there to help you with XML parsing or web scraping or whatever you wanted. And those are both really useful. One of the organizers that runs the Boston Python workshop, which is a 2-day or day and a half Friday night and all day Saturday course for absolute beginners. So it's kind of people that have never touched programming before, if Python is your interest. And there's also a data science, there's a couple, but there's one main data science meetup in Boston that tends to be a little bit more experienced folks, but they also have a lot of beginners there as well, and cover domain independent stuff and also domain specific things. In, it tends to be kind of the biopharma and stuff like that, because that's where Boston has a lot of concentration, but library data would certainly be fair game there.
I think we're winding down. I just want to say that I don't want it to die. I do want us to continue this somehow. Like I think one of the parts of the course was that I didn't want it to be all Harvard. I wanted it to be different people, for different librarians, different walks of life, different universities. We got close to that. I mean, it was still a lot of Harvard people, but I think that's also very beneficial, is to get to mix the universities up, and maybe Simmons can also have a role in that. Like Simmons could actually be it is already a great library school, but it could be even better. I was sitting down with the former dean of the UW School, and he said that Simmons could be much bigger if it wanted to be, because like we were talking about, all these institutions in this area, that if Simmons could leverage that in some way, like open up its community, its doors a little bit more, and bring in, one thing that I remember Alex Holacek saying is that she's like, can't we just have a day where all the other librarians talk about what they're doing, like in their work, and how this can help them. And it was like, God, there's no time, but I would love to do it, but that would be a great thing for students to do, is we do come in and actually speak in certain courses, but there's a lot of potential there too. Like the whole meetup scene is like something that Simmons could do, is maybe leverage that scene. I think. I really hope that Simmons sees potential in this and does. I don't know why. I'm looking at Ron. Ron, you're going to do this.
I will be on sabbatical.
Yeah. No, you can't go on sabbatical. You can't. I really hope that it does get picked up in some way. Anyways, more questions, or we're all ready to go?
I just wanted to reiterate what Alberto said, and thank you and to thank you again, Chris. Without Chris's work on this, obviously this never would have happened. And it was a learning experience for me in itself to see how Chris can take an idea and just make it into a reality. You really set the tone for this whole class. I mean, just taking the plunge in with all of us, and it was a very experimental class, and everybody just dove in and went with it, and we had a committed group. But I think thank you for setting it for us.
Yeah. Don't be afraid of failure. Like that. You're gonna fail a lot in this, like that.
Failure's not about don't be afraid of failing.
That was my message when we started off, is that it's not gonna go the way you want it to be. It's not gonna be perfect. It's gotta hurt, and it did, yeah. But I want to thank you guys too. They really, I think everyone pulled together too. I had a great group. I think they were all really motivated. So, I think they're gonna do really great things now. I believe now, that you guys are gonna do. Alex is doing some amazing things, and I can't wait to see what else she does, and I know that like all of you guys too. Like
I can't wait to be done with that metadata almanac. Like, I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, so stay tuned, I guess. So,
Thank you.
have a good night.